Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today we are going to be learning how to sew this jumpsuit that you see on your screen. Please be sure to like and comment on the video and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. So as you can see here, I have my fabric that I'm going to use for the upper part of the jumpsuit. This fabric is two fabrics on fold and it's going to form the main fabric and the lining for the front part of the bodice. Now, I haven't laid it down. I'm going to measure half of the shoulder measurements I'm using, which is 4.5. And now, after measuring 4.5, I'll come down by half an inch from that place I measured 4.5. And then from where I came down by half an inch, I'll come down again by 4.5. English is hard. After coming down by 4.5, I'm going to find the middle of that place, and then I'll mark the middle and then come out by 0.25, and I'll draw the arm curve. So I haven't drawn the arm curve. Now I'm going to measure 2 inches for the neck width, and then I'm going to measure 3 inches for the neck depth. I'm just going to use a simple neck, round neck for this. So now I'll measure the quarter of the chest measurements I'm using, which is 7.5 inches, and then for the waist also I'll measure the same 7.5 inches. I'll join both lines with a straight line, and like that I'm done with my measurements. Now note that the length of this fabric is 10.5. Also, when you're cutting yours, make sure that you're using 10.5, or you can just take your own baby's measurements. But I think this is perfect for like a 1-year old to an 18-month old. Remember, I came down by half an inch from the shoulder line, so I'm just going to measure and join it with a slant from the neck area, and then I have my shoulder slope for the bodice. So here is the fabric I'm using for the back of the jumpsuit. I'm going to use the front actually to also cut out the back. So I also have two fabric that is going to form the main part of the bodice for the back, and then the ankara also is going to form the lining. So I'm reintroducing the front bodice that I've already cut, and it's that front bodice I'm going to use to shape the side and the armhole area. The neckline is going to be different. Now note, you can see that the front that I introduced to this back is shorter. That's the way it's supposed to be. Remember that the length of the front is 10.5, so I'm going to make sure that I remove 1 inch from the length of the back here. So while the front length is going to be 10.5, the back length of the bodice is going to be 9.5. This is very, very important for the final outcome of the sewing. So now, having reduced the length so as much as I want, I can now go on to use the front bodice to shape the side and the armhole area of the back. I'm also going to include the shoulder slants. So I have what I need like that for the front, and then I'm going to remove the front bodice and put it aside, and then I have just the back bodice. So now we're going to measure the neck depth for the back. But before I measure the neck depth from the back, I'm going to quickly reintroduce that front bodice that I'm taking away to just mark where the neck width stops. And why I'm doing this is that I want the neck width to be the same thing, but the neck depth is just going to be different. So after checking for where the neck width is, I'm going to come down by 4.5 from the apex of the neckline there, and then just draw it down there. So I'll cut it off. After cutting it, now I'm going to measure 3 inches or 3.5 inches rather from that place. So when I measure that 3.5 inches, I'm going to now slant it till the end of the bodice. But before I do that, I'll measure 1.5 inch from that side for the allowance, and then I'll just use a slanting line to draw from that center to the end. So after I've already cut out the back bodies, as you can see laid out now, you have to remember that because the back bodies is going to have a back tie, so I'm going to open up that back, the middle area of the center of the back rather, for the back body. So I'm going to open it up, and that's where I'm going to fix my rope for the back of the dress. So now we can move on to cut the trouser part of the jumpsuit. So here I have my fabric laid down. I have two pieces of fabric on fold, and this piece of fabric I have on fold should measure at least 10 inches or 11 inches on fold. 10 inches or 11 inches on fold. You will not end up using all of that, but just have it so that we have more than enough allowance. And then the length of the fabric is going to be 20 inches, so you have about 11 inches on fold and then 20 inches for the length of the fabric, because it's going to be a long jumpsuit. Now before I proceed to do anything, from the center of the fabric I'm just going to measure 1 inch. Now 1 inch I'm measuring is just to give myself enough wiggle room for when I'm going to be joining the trouser parts of the fabric. So it might not necessarily be useful at the end, but I like to just give myself enough accommodation, because I was just coming up with the technique for sewing this jumpsuit as I was making this video. So now I've measured 1 inch from the center line, and then I'm just going to use a straight line to join it. So after using a straight line to join it, now I can now proceed to start adding the measurement for the jumpsuit. So now let's start at the top. From that top there, I'm going to measure the same measurements that I measured for my chest and waist measurement, which was about 7 inches, or so that's what I'm going to measure there. So that's 7 inches. I'm going to measure it there. Also, you can just use your main bodies to just mark it. So just put the middle of that main bodies where the 1 inch line I drew is, and then just measure it. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll know that by the time I'm done, I'm going to have almost the same thing for the waist of the bodice and the waist of the trouser. After measuring that, what the chest and waist measurement is around the waist area of the trouser, I'm going to come down by 9 inches from that place. Remember that I'm going to put elastic at the back part of this jumpsuit, so I need to create the accommodation for the elastic on the bodice and on the jumpsuit, so I don't add anything. So I'm just coming down by 9 inch, and then I'll just draw the angle for the crotch. So now from that place where the angle of the crotch is, I'm going to measure 1.5, and that 1.5 is going to be my crotch extension for this for the jumpsuit. So now I'll go to the end of that jumpsuit there, to the bottom part of the jumpsuit, and I'm going to measure 6 inches for the bottom part. At the bottom part, I'm also going to put an elastic also, so I'll just make sure that I measured 6 inches for that bottom part. And then because I'm going to put an elastic, I'm going to create a casing for the elastic. So there's a way I'm going to draw out that bottom part, such that when I'm folding in the casing for the elastic, I'm not going to have a weird shape of casing or of finishing coming out. So what I do is that towards that end, I'll just come out by 0.25. So 0.25 from that end, and then when I come out from that 0.25, I'll just go up by 1 inch. So by the time I'm drawing a straight line from my crotch area to the end of the trouser, as you're going to see there, I'm going to have a slanty line towards that end. Just look at what I'm doing, and you will understand very, very well, because as I'm saying, it might be a little bit confusing. Just see what I'm doing there. My tape has seen better days. God, I've been using this tape for a long time. It has seen better days. So what I'm just going to do now, after creating that slanting line like you have seen, I'm just going to draw a straight line, a slanting line from that crotch extension to the end, just as you have seen. And then I can just create the crotch depth. So to create the crotch curve, I'll go up by 1 inch from the middle of that angle, and then I'll just use my hand to just curve it out. Just go up by 1 inch from where that angle is, and then just use a free hand to cut it. And so like that already, I'm pretty much done with covering out my trouser, and I can proceed to cut it out. So after cutting out the crotch area of the trouser, I'm just going to go to the side and then just open it up. Please be more careful when you're opening up your trouser than I wasn't very careful when I was opening it up, so it was a little bit jagged at that point, at that end, so I had to trim some of it off. Just make sure that you open it properly, or better still, instead of having your fabric unfold when you want to cut, just don't have that part unfold. I have everything like 4 pieces of fabric laid on top one another, so you know that you have 4 pieces for the trouser, as opposed to having one side folded and then you have to open it. So like that, I'm done with the trouser. So to start the sewing process, I'm going to first of all get the part I'm going to use for the back tie, and that was going to measure about 4.5 inches or 5 inches for the length, and then 22 inches for the length rather, and 4.5 inches for the width. The width is going to be 4.5 or 5 inches. So then I'm going to join it, and after joining it, I'm going to add it to the back area, turning it with lining. Just follow what I'm doing and get started. Thank you.
physical complete set with keywords.